All right, in this presentation, we're going to talk about the actual advertisements. Usually when people talk about marketing or you mention I'm in marketing, they immediately think about, oh, I saw the funniest ad, and I saw this advertisement. No, you're the ones that design those things to be said on the radio that are so annoying and all that kind of stuff. So, advertising is not marketing, but there's kind of they go hand in hand. Advertising is a factor of marketing. It's one of the things you do in marketing, and it's one of the things you do a little bit later on in the marketing process. First, we're going to look at what our target audience really is and what it should be. Then we're going to decide what we want to actually accomplish with our marketing, with our advertising. If you're looking to increase your market share, for example, if you want to break into a new market, break into a new demographic, if you've been marketing primarily to men and you now want to market to women, that's a marketing objective. And so we'll decide all of those and we'll come up with a budget, and then we'll actually start working on making our advertisements, which we're going to talk about in this presentation. So if you're actually looking to make one, everyone's kind of all big talk until it comes down to the point where you want to make your advertisement. Something as simple as saying, okay, let's get a billboard. Well, fine, you have a blank piece of paper, basically. What are you going to put on it? Well, the name of our company. Okay, is that supposed to be big, small, in the corner? Are we going to put our logo up there instead, or both of them? Is this an informational ad where we want to just put just our company name so that people at least will recognize it? Are we going to put something funny up there? Are we going to put something scary up there? What are we going to do? And that gets a little bit interesting. This is an example. All of you know it, and we'll look at this and we'll go back a couple slides. The E-Trade Baby. Okay. And everyone loved these commercials. They ran quite a few of them. But it's all about this baby, this one right here on the screen, talking about E-Trade and how he was using it and his friends were using it and he was getting other people to use it because it was so easy. And obviously the implication is that a baby can use E-Trade to make money off of their portfolio, and why aren't you then if a baby can do it? It was funny and at the same time a pretty good spokesperson for something if you're saying it's so easy, even a baby can do it. Now, some other ways you can talk about this. Again, use of humor and comparisons. This is actually getting to be more and more popular. The PC guy versus the Mac guy. That ran for a little while. I don't think they're running that one anymore, but they do this quite a bit. The Verizon, AT&T, stuff like that are doing this again. But comparisons are interesting because you're able to kind of poke fun at your competition without being too heavy-handed and without being sued for any kind of defamation. What about using endorsements from celebrities, from stars? The top endorsement incomes of American athletes in 2011. Look at these numbers just for fun. 60 million, Tiger Woods. He's not up there anymore. Phil Mickelson, 57 million. Why do you think golf are so endorsable? In my opinion, because they are easily recognizable. The problem, for example, with football, look down this and you have Peyton Manning as the first one for NFL football. A quarter of what Tiger Woods was making is part of the reason that he's wearing a helmet all the time, and most of the time we see him, he's all sweaty and beat up from a football game. Maybe. Pro golfers tend to be a little more presentable. Yeah, LeBron James, 30 million, still half of what these two guys are making. Incredible. But all the way down here, you've got Major League Baseball finally pops up at 10 million. NBA basketball is fairly prominent all the way through, and you have some football players, but only quarterbacks. Look at that. Yep, all quarterbacks. Why? The linemen are not as presentable. They're massive tractor-like people. Um, they're not as recognizable. You don't hear much about them. You hear the name of the quarterback a billion times in a game, but you don't hear about the lineman very much, unless they mess up. Okay, so $60 million just to endorse things? Impressive. Then what about typical person endorsements? What about showing regular people using or endorsing products? Instead of the big stars, what about just a regular person? That can sometimes avoid that backlash from using the beautiful people. In other words, you have to be an NFL quarterback to afford this particular car. No, we're going to show a regular person driving it around, and hey, I might be able to get one of those myself. Real person gives the benefits of particular experience the benefits of the particular brand, grants a degree of credibility. Again, if it's somebody like you using this product, then hey, maybe I should too. More effective to use multiple people rather than a single individual in most cases. Then we have, again, humor in advertising. How often is humor used in advertising? I think it's used more now than it ever has been before. Uh, Usually that's a good thing. It does attract attention. And that's why most Super Bowl ads now, right, are funny. You have some that are based on sex appeal. You have some that are, different appeals. But humor is a pretty big one right now. It does attract attention. It enhances the liking of the ad and the brand because we're laughing, we're happy, we think something is funny, and we associate those feelings with the actual brand. Does not hurt comprehension. The question mark there means that is debatable because it can hurt comprehension. I'll show you an example of that here in just a minute. Does not harm the persuasion, also can be debated. Does not harm the source credibility. We're getting pretty used to humor now. There are still some products that cannot use it because it hurts the credibility there. But the nature of the product affects the appropriateness of using humor. That's certainly true. Some things we're allowed to joke about and some things we definitely are not. Now, just for an example, let's go. Love this commercial from a Super Bowl back a while back. Okay. Yes, I think it's hilarious. If you think it's offensive, then I'm sorry, but I thought it was hilarious. Now, I remember seeing this during a Super Bowl, watched this, was laughing because it's just, can you imagine trying to explain yourself? And I'm guessing it's the significant other's cat, or else it wouldn't be quite so shocked, but amazing, amazing commercial. Now, the problem you have you seen the company? Do you know what this is talking about? Now you can look up here in the corner and see funny insurance commercial a little bit right over there. At least the insurance part you might guess. But if you're just watching this on the TV, this is all you have. They could be talking about Prego or whatever type of tomato sauce that is. I don't know. Now if you watch the rest of the film here, okay, it's about a mortgage company. Don't judge too harshly. This is when people are having a hard time getting mortgages and things. Okay, it makes sense looking back on it. Now, did that hurt our comprehension though? Well, I can tell you from experience the issue that I had with it. Let's get our slides back up here. Is that after it was over, I didn't know what company it was. Why? Because they made the joke right there at the end of the commercial. And what was I doing when they were flashing what the company was? I was laughing, turning to whoever I was with and saying, "Did you see that commercial?" Turned back, the commercial was over. And to this day, again, when I think about this, I think funny commercial where somebody looks like they just killed a cat. So, did that hurt comprehension? Yeah. The joke completely ruined the commercial for any practical reason, and all I was doing was laughing at the joke. So it can be a problem. You have to be careful where you put it, where you space it, what exactly the topic is. Often people try to be funny and end up being offensive. So it is a good thing, can help. It also has its problem. Effective only when consumers' evaluations of the advertised brand are already positive. In other words, if you are a hated brand, you're going to have a problem using humor because people are not going to laugh along with you. The effect of the humor can differ due to differences in audience and geographical characteristics, absolutely. I have a very, very, very different sense of humor than my wife, for example. So I will see something and laugh like crazy because it's just so funny, and then I'll show it to her and she'll say, "I don't get it." Different sense of humor. So the commercial where I'm rolling on the ground saying that was wonderful, she's going, "That was kind of stupid." Not that she doesn't laugh about things, but it is different things. Okay, geographical characteristics, some places it's different. Okay, not to mention cultural. Humorous message may be so distracting that receivers ignore the message content, like the commercial at the Super Bowl. What about fear appeals? At one point in my life, for a very short amount of time, I actually sold funeral services. One of those you go in like the prepaid stuff where you can go ahead and buy your plot and buy your coffin and buy all kinds of things ahead of time so that when you eventually pass away, it's all ready for you. Not a bad idea, I have to admit. Felt just fine selling it, but it was kind of weird telling people about it. But they had a saying, which I never actually used this tactic, but they did talk about it, and they said you have to back the hearse up to the house. Now, they did not mean that literally, or at least in most cases, I don't think they did. But they said in a lot of cases you had to convince someone that, yes, you are going to die. And until they really kind of accepted that death was coming for them, they weren't going to buy anything. And that kind of makes sense if they think they're immortal, which a lot of young people do. They're not going to want to plan for their death, but as soon as they start thinking, yeah, death is coming, then they could. Now, I never did that. Again, ethical issues. But you get people's attention using a fear appeal. So you're going to use physical or impending problems, health problems, death. Life insurance loves to talk about that. Can identify the negative consequences of not using the product. If you don't use this product, ooh boy, that's going to be bad. Unsafe behavior, drinking and driving. Use fear appeals for that all the time. Can take the forms of either social disapproval, so look at what people think of you if you did this, or actual physical danger. The inverted U hypothesis. Again, this is not a complete explanation. Degree of persuasive effectiveness. If it's low fear, not very helpful, and moderate amounts of fear, we're good. We're doing pretty good. Hey, we're buying life insurance. If you go too high, if you go too far with it, it has a negative return, meaning people are now mad at you because you scared them, and people are crying now and twitching, and we don't want to do anything with this company who made us feel so horrible. You don't want to go that far. You go that far, you lost your audience. So somewhere here in the middle, it can be a good thing. And again, we're not talking about scaring people enough that they're crying or twitching on their couch. It's just, why else would you buy life insurance if you weren't concerned about what would happen when you pass away? Why would you buy health insurance if you weren't concerned about there being a medical problem? So some of those can be effective if the appropriate level of the threat is given. Okay? And you need a prominent solution. As in, just scaring people isn't going to help you if you don't say, and we've solved it. No problem, we have the solution, and we're good. Music and advertising. Again, attracts attention, promotes the positive mood or the appropriate mood, increases the receptivity of messages. Can you imagine some of the commercials around the Olympics, for example, without music? They'd be awful. They communicate the meanings with the song itself. And we generally like music. It's kind of fun. But be careful. All of the different things we talk about to try to get people to pay attention and to attract attention can also distract. Attractive sources, background scenery, colors, music, humor, fear. You could also end up with people saying, whoa, that was amazing. What was it about? I don't know. Okay. Arguments against it. Why not just have someone talking about your product? Why intentionally try to distract them? Okay? That's why I see those commercials where somebody's just standing in like a white backdrop talking about a product. They're a little bit boring. We don't chuckle about them, but we do listen because it's so different. What about sex appeal? That is an interesting one to use. Definitely gets attention. Might enhance recall if they paid attention and thought that was fun. It could have a positive effect, but there are cultural issues. In some situations, someone's going to say that was a really cool commercial. The other person's going to say that was offensive. What about a direct comparative advertisement? Direct, this one's 4 hours, this one's 8 hours. You should get ours instead. An indirect comparative advertisement, look how good we are and everyone else, most of them, the average one, the other one, the leading one, we're not mentioning their name, but we do everything but, is only this big. Okay? Whole bunch of different ways to appeal to your consumers. When you actually get down to making one, you have to consider all of the different methods of appealing to them and choose the one that you think will work the best for your marketing objectives. Thank you and have a good week.